Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today on World Lupus Day, I am honored to have a special guest with me in the person of Mrs. Vivian Martin Atojoko, who will be sharing her personal experience. Well, you're welcome to my channel. Say hi to my fans.
Hi.
We're just going to dive into the questions. And the first question is, can you explain what lupus, being an autoimmune disease, means?
Okay, so lupus is a short form for systemic lupus erythematosus. So it's called SLE or lupus for short. Is an autoimmune disease. An autoimmune disease is a disease that affects your immune system. Affects your immune system in the sense that normally every human being has, let's call them the soldiers of the body that help to defend the body against invaders. Invaders may be in the form of viruses, bacteria, and all that. So, a situation where your body starts to recognize itself as a strange invader and begins to attack itself. That's the typical case of an autoimmune disease. So, in an autoimmune disease, the body begins to attack itself. It sees itself as, or rather, any part of the body as an invader and develops antibodies and starts attacking it. So, this would lead to damage of that part of the body that is affected. So in this case, lupus can be called multisystemic, a multisystemic type of disease because different types of organs can be affected. If the immune system senses that the joints it feels as if the joints are a threat, it starts attacking the joints. So that's where you start having issues with your joints. It may be the eyes, it may be the kidneys, it may just be any part of the body.
Okay.
So
that sounds really serious. So does it range from mild to severe, or is just severe throughout? Is it life threatening?
okay, so lupus is chronic. Chronic in the sense that it's not really a one-off thing. It lasts for a number of years. In fact, it's more of a lifetime thing. So treatment, there's actually no cure for lupus. It can only be managed, and management is based on the symptoms that is presented. So you can't even really say, okay, this is how to treat lupus. You can't really treat it, or you can treat the symptoms that are manifested at that particular time. Most of the time, there is a lot of inflammation while this process is happening. So if during that period you have inflammation in your joints, so you start treating that symptoms that is causing the inflammation. If it is affecting your kidneys, then you start trying to arrest kidney damage because further attack or inflammation can even cause kidney damage too.
Okay. So the second question is, it is often said that lupus is an invisible disease, meaning that the symptoms are not visible to others. Are there common symptoms associated with lupus?
Okay, so I think the main reason why they say it's an invisible disease is because it mimics a lot of things. So 1 minute you can be with your friend. If your friend has lupus, you can 1 minute you're with your friend laughing and gisting, and the next minute she's in severe pains and you'll be saying no, she's definitely making it up. There's no way she can switch so fast from being the happy person you went out and jumping and swimming with to the person rolling in pains. Or she can't just switch from somebody who you went for a party together yesterday to someone who is at the verge of a kidney transplant the next day. So it mimics different illnesses, it affects different organs. So you can't really say there's a one size fits all for how someone with lupus will behave, but there are actually different things because it affects different organs. There are different, there are some markers that point to, with experience, some doctors are able to say, okay, this symptom is a classic symptom of lupus. Permit me to give some of the known symptoms of lupus. Can affect the kidneys. In that case, it is called lupus nephritis. So the kidneys are inflamed. Some of the symptoms may include protein in urine, and that can also lead to kidney failures, even hypertension. There's a relationship between kidney damage and hypertension too. So that's one of the symptoms. Uncontrolled hypertension too can be implicated in this. Then it can also affect the brain and the nervous system. We have situations where people will become depressed. They also exhibit symptoms of psychosis and mental instability. That's because at this particular time, the immune system is looking at the brain as the enemy, and is attacking. So we also have joints and the musculoskeletal system. So here we'll start having joint pains, some form of arthritis, osteoarthritis, stiffness of joints and muscle pain, wrist pain, and all that. We also have reproductive issues. We'll start having menstrual abnormalities. In some females, we have frequent miscarriages. It can also be implicated in blood circulatory issues. Here we'll have blood clotting. There's issues with blood clotting, low blood counts. So it may be low WBC, white blood cells. It may be low platelets. You may even see some people that may require blood transfusion. Some other form of circulatory issues. We have a classic phenomenon called Raynaud phenomenon. In this case, there is you experience some form of numbness in your extremities. That's the tip of your fingers or the tip of your toes when you are exposed to cold. So that's one of the classic symptoms too of lupus. We also have skin involvement. Here, there is a lot of photosensitivity when you find yourself exposed to sun. I won't call it sunburn, but you start reacting to it. Yes. So some people also experience some form of redness on their skin, swellings and tenderness. Some of them, in some cases, it is hot to touch. When you touch the person's skin, you actually feel the heat on that person. There are situations. I know someone personally who woke up one morning and she was blind. She couldn't see. She went to bed. Yeah, she went to bed. Okay, she could see, but she woke up in the morning. She couldn't see. She had a flare, or she had been having a flare, but it became worse and it affected her eyes. So it took her a lot of treatment and some persistence for her to gain her eyesight back. So it's just multifaceted. So generally, lupus is a crazy disease.
So it's not even enough to say, oh, I'm having this symptom. You have to do like extensive tests, laboratory tests, and seek the right medical counsel to be able to diagnose that. Yes, because from what she's listed, it mirrors a whole lot of other illnesses. Wow, so my next question is, self-care is important for individuals managing lupus. What are self-care strategies that can help manage symptoms and overall well-being?
One of the main self-care practices is know yourself. If you know yourself, you'll be able to know when you are coming down with something, when you're about to have a flare. A flare is like a spike. That's you are coming down with something. If you know yourself, you know, okay, there's something funny going on. You don't really know what is happening, but you know that yes, my body is not. It's giving me signs that something is about to happen. So you just tone it down a little. If you have been involved in a lot of stressful activities, you'll just tone it down a little. One thing that I know is that stress triggers lupus. So it may even be physical stress, it may be mental stress, emotional stress. It can trigger lupus. Then lack of sleep too triggers lupus. Then another thing that is very important for someone with lupus is a good diet. There are some diets that are inflammatory diets. That's foods that cause inflammation. Most of the time, processed food. So as much as possible, try to reduce the amount of processed foods and take a lot of whole foods, vegetables, fruits. One of the key treatments for lupus is use of steroids. the steroids just help to suppress your immune system. So if you have lupus and because of the overactivity of your immune system, you'll be placed on steroids. And these steroids, they are usually long-term steroids.
Okay.
So they also have side effects, and some of the side effects include weight loss. One of the things you can do will be to ensure that since your immune system is being suppressed by these drugs, because they are immunosuppressants, just try as much as possible to prevent your exposure to other form of illness. That's exposure to bacteria, viruses, and all that, so that you don't come down completely. So that even though you are deliberately suppressing your immune system, whatever you pick up, it will not bring you down. Because for someone with lupus that is on immunosuppressants, just a tiny cold can become very fatal. A tiny infection can blow up to become terrible, would land you in the hospital. So it's usually better to take care of yourself as much as possible. Avoid any means of or exposure to bacteria or anything that can cause ill health.
So from what you've said, the most important key, in fact, the important key is to know yourself.
Yes.
You should know when you're coming down, when you're having a flare, right? So when you know yourself, it is easier to monitor your symptoms. Can you list 3 major triggers that could lead to flare-ups?
Okay, so as I said, lack of sleep. Someone with lupus, okay, it is said that you should have at least 8 hours of sleep. So someone with lupus should aim towards 8-10 in an ideal world. But I don't know, with the adulting we are doing these days, I don't know if we can ever get to 8 hours of sleep. But you try as much as possible to get enough rest. Then also photosensitivity. You try to avoid too much exposure to sunlight, because it can trigger. One of the ways by doing it is definitely you have to go out. You are not a hermit, so you just wear a hat, use sunscreen, wear long sleeve clothes and all that to protect yourself as much as possible. Don't go sunbathing, even though in Nigeria we have the sun
naturally beating us.
As I said, stress. Try to avoid stress, and stress can be emotional, it can be mental, and it can be physical. Try as much as possible to avoid stress.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so how does living with lupus or a loved one with lupus impact daily life and activities?
It impacts in a lot of ways. Okay, I gave you an example of someone I know who was seen before she went to bed and she woke up blind. You can just imagine her living in the house with her siblings, or she's a mother to children and she wakes up in the morning and she can't see. How will she cook for her children? And the funny thing is that lupus affects mostly women. It occurs in men, but it's quite rare compared to women. So we bear the burden more than the males. So in that situation now, what will she do? Already that's an emotional stress for her, thinking of how she will cater for her family, handle her family life when she can't see. Then, okay, imagine someone who daily livelihood is, she uses her hands for her work. Whatever she does, she uses her hands. And all of a sudden she's experiencing so much pain in her fingers, she can't even hold the pen. You can imagine the kind of torture. So it's like her hand is already cut off, her hand has been taken off from her life. So how would you be able to cope? Or you're in so much pain you can't stand. It's like because of the way it comes and the different ways it expresses itself, sometimes it's even difficult trying to get someone to convince someone that, see, I'm actually sick. I actually need care and support.
Okay, so currently in Nigeria, because I for one didn't know how it can be, how lupus can be. So is there enough awareness currently in Nigeria? Are people informed of how to manage, even if not just them, how to manage a loved one with lupus? Is there enough awareness currently?
Funny enough, there's no. The awareness is in fact, I'll just say, it's just recently that there is becoming more awareness for lupus. Let's just say like 5-6 years back, we could even hardly get a doctor that could diagnose lupus. So you find out that you go to the doctor, you keep going to the doctor and saying, okay, I feel sick, and the doctor will think you are pretending. Forget the fact that he's a doctor, but because he can't really see, he can't connect the dots. Okay, in Nigeria will say you have malaria, they have checked malaria, but you can't be having malaria every week. You can't be having malaria every week. You can't be having typhoid every week. So some of them will even try to bend your head psychologically and make you feel as if you think you are sick. But you know yourself, you know that yes. So most of the time, if you can actually get a diagnosis, you find people that get diagnosis actually rejoicing, and you'll be like, this girl was just told she has a chronic illness and she's rejoicing, but you actually don't understand what she has gone through, going through years of doctors telling her it's all in your head, you don't know what you are saying, you'll be fine. Meanwhile, you know there's a battle raging within you and that you know you are not fine. So having that diagnosis is like a load is lifted off your head. So now you know where to put your attention and how to handle yourself. So awareness is kind of poor, but thankfully there is becoming more awareness. But apart from awareness, there needs to be a lot of support, because already as it is, even rheumatologists are the doctors that are specialists in treating autoimmune diseases like lupus. And in Nigeria, we have very, very few rheumatologists. And with this brain drain that we have now, we have a lot of them moving on to greener pastures. So you can find one rheumatologist handling over 50 patients. In fact, at the end of the day, you even get other specialists that come to try to assist. But we need more doctors, we need more trained specialists in that field. It will really do a lot of good, because even if the awareness is increasing, there are still a lot of people that are suffering from misdiagnosis. Misdiagnosis and mistreatment, and some of them, it gets so bad that they are far gone before actual diagnosis is done and given. So if there can be more awareness, more support, it will then make it much more easier. Living with lupus will be much more easier.
Okay. So the last question. What advice would you give to newly diagnosed individuals or those supporting a loved one with lupus?
Knowledge is power. The more you know about a disease, the more you can help yourself and help your doctor. One thing I have understood and I've grown to know is that a lot of times you even find situations where, if you are very aware of what is happening to you, you are knowledgeable enough, not at least an expert, but at least you know what is happening, you would even be able to give the doctors a sense of direction when they are treating you. Because you can imagine someone who is having a flare, but because the doctor does not understand, he will place you on high level antibiotics, and you know that at that particular time it's not antibiotics that you need something else. So you'll be able to direct the doctor's attention towards it. And you find out that sometimes in some situations, some lupus patients even become more like lab rats. Okay, like, oh, okay, so this is a lupus patient. Oh, so okay, so it's actually real. Yeah, so she's experiencing this. And I'm like, oh, she's having Raynaud's phenomenon. Okay. Oh, so this is how it looks. Oh, this is the malar rash. Oh, really? This is what malar rash, all those kind of things. So you actually become more like a lab rat. But if you know the disease, if you know the symptoms, if you know all these things that are come up, it will give you guidance. It will make you more self-aware of how to treat the ailment, how to direct your doctor in treatment, and you can even work with your doctor for better outcomes.
In starting this podcast interview, I didn't know so much about it, but you've thrown more light into this illness, and I feel like there are a lot of us that do not know anything about lupus, and we need to create awareness about illnesses. You will agree with me that the most common illness right now would be malaria and typhoid, but there's so many illnesses that mimic malaria and your common illnesses for doctors to really know that okay, this is what is wrong. So thank you very much for your valuable insight. It has shown, at least it has given me more knowledge about lupus and how to help others. So if you're watching this video, I hope you were able to take one or two, and if you're someone living with lupus or you know someone with lupus, they need love, they need empathy, they need understanding. So as we mark this lupus day, I hope that we join hands to create more awareness and to show love and empathy to people living with this condition. If you got to this point, thank you very much for watching. And Mrs. Vivian, thank you for thank you for coming on my show to actually come and enlighten us. So until next time, guys, you know how it is. I remain your host, Harriet. Bye.
Bye.